Hey, what's up YouTube? Jeff Robbins, Robbins Racing. So I've got a customer engine that just came in for some service, Briggs LO206. Customer stating that it's down on power. They run this in the senior class and they state that they're getting dusted by Masters drivers down the straightaway. So we got to figure out what's going on here for them. I did notice one thing right off the bat. You guys can probably see that there. I'm sure that's not helping anything. So we'll get that swapped out. We're going to go ahead, we'll do a leak down test on it, compression test on it. We'll clean up the carburetor in the ultrasonic cleaner, check the valve lash, and then what we're going to do is we're actually going to do a dyno pull before we touch anything so we can get some before numbers. And real quick, I went and took the clutch off. You can see the crank there. And this bushing from the clutch was just absolutely welded to the crank. So all I had to do was just grab a little bit of sandpaper, cleaned this crank up a little bit, and now our bushing slides on and off for us. So let's go ahead and get this thing on the dyno, and then we'll do some service. Okay, as you just saw, we got our first couple dyno pulls in, so let's take a look at the data, see if we can confirm the engine owner's suspicion that this thing's down on power. Let's go ahead and open our test here. Oh shoot, I gotta add the math channels. So let's add some math channels to the test so we can see some stats. Let's go ahead and add these two, and then let's add these down here. Add those to our test. Okay, so it looks like our horsepower came in at 7.29, and that was on the second pull that you saw in the video, and it looks like peak torque came in at 9.54 foot-pounds, and that was actually on the first pull that you saw in the video. So, let's take a closer look here, see what we see. So yeah, we've got our 7.29 horsepower. Torque was 9.18 foot-pounds, and that came in at roughly 3,200 RPM. So Briggs actually says we should be seeing 8.8 horsepower and 10 foot-pounds of torque. So we're definitely lacking a little bit of power. Just want to point one thing out real quick. You see this dip here in the beginning of the data. That's simply me opening the valve on my dyno. I've got to come up with a better way to do it. I started writing an Arduino sketch that would allow me to open up a mechanical valve. Project kind of got put on the wayside, and I just haven't got back to it. But if you're wondering what this dip is, that's just me opening the valve on the dyno and relieving the pressure. And I mean, if we look at the pressure right here, almost 1,200 pounds. The max pressure we saw was a little over 1,900 pounds. There's quite a bit of pressure there, so it's just hard to open it consistently. But that's what you're looking at there, in case you're wondering. So yeah, we're definitely down on a little bit of power. So let's get this engine over to the bench and see if we can work out. Okay, so let's do a quick compression test on this. Simply, we just got to remove the spark plug. I've got the carburetor removed as well to allow as much air to get into this as possible. And I've been talking to some guys, and apparently this test is somewhat pointless on the LO206. I'll show you the reason why here in a second. So we'll get our compression tester installed here. Just like so. Alright, let's turn this thing over a few times. Okay, so if we look, 50 psi. So that's kind of alarming when you first see it, but apparently these LO206 motors have a compression release to assist with starting. So this really isn't going to tell us much. So let's move on to the next check. Okay, let's check our valve lash. And if you remember from the valve lash video, we've got to find top dead center of the compression stroke. So that's going to be intake valve will open. Once the intake valve closes, that will be the top of our compression stroke. So exhaust opening, exhaust close, intake opening, intake closing. And now that we're close, we can just grab our flashlight and just confirm when we're at exactly top dead center. Just right there. Both our rockers should be loose. Let's see where they're running their lash. Let's try 002 first. .002 not fitting. Let's try 0.15. Nothing. Let's check the exhaust. 002 fit. Let's try 003. 003 fit. 004. Alright, so it looks like they're essentially running no lash on the intake and about 3 thousandths on the exhaust. I'm definitely going to change that up a little bit, see if we can help him out. But just for our starting point, looks like we have 0 lash on our intake and 3 thousandths on the exhaust. Alright, time for the leak down test. And before I do this test, I like to remove both the rockers and the rods, just so that I can guarantee both my valves are closed as far as they can be closed. So we'll go ahead and insert our leak down tester. Looks like we're about 20% leak down. I did this once before and it showed about 15. You can hear that we're leaking out the intake quite a bit. But I'm not getting much from the exhaust, so it looks like mainly just the intake side is leaking pretty good. So the customer is going to bring me some new valves. He said he's also got some new springs. So we'll go ahead and get those installed on them. We're going to end up lapping up the valve seats a little bit to see if we can get this sealing a little bit better. But yeah, we've definitely got some leakage out of our top end here. And I can hear it coming out of the bottom end as well. See if you can hear it. But to be honest with you, every one of these I've checked, I've always heard air leaking out the bottom. So that's where we're at. There we go. See, it's about 15% leakage. So if you happen to be someone that has watched my valve lapping video, I appreciate you for that. We're going to do the same test on this head that we just did the leak down on. And when we did the leak down, we could hear a bunch of air coming out of the intake, and the exhaust actually seemed like it was sealed up pretty good. So we're going to go ahead with our flashlight test and see if we can confirm the same thing. So if we get our flashlight and we shine it in the intake port, lift this up for you guys. Can you see that little bit of light leaking through there? That is leakage out of our intake port. So we'll go ahead and shoot some light down the exhaust. And if we're looking down the exhaust, it's sealed up tight. I'm not seeing any light leakage through the exhaust. The same thing we confirmed with the leak down tester. Go back to the intake for you. Look at that. There it is. Leakage out the intake port. So if you do not have a leak down tester, go ahead, get yourself a little mag light, and you can do the same thing to verify if your valves are sealing or not. Alright guys, so service is complete. And here it is. So just to go through what we've done, we've got a new air filter. I cleaned up the carburetor. I ended up adjusting the float height. It was running actually pretty lean on the top, so I actually adjusted the float height a little bit. We've got new head gasket. We've got new valve lash settings. We've got new valves, new springs. And if you remember in the video, the intake was leaking. It took 10 passes to get that valve to seal for me, but ended up getting it to seal. And there was one other thing that I ended up checking, and that's called valve lift. I've never checked valve lift on these engines before, so stay tuned for the next video, and I'm going to show you guys how to check the valve lift on your engine as well. So let's go ahead, let's get this thing on the dyno and see what the results are. Okay, I just completed the post-service dyno pull, so let's take a look at the data, see if we made things better or worse. Need to add our math channels.
Let's go with all the same ones we added with the previous test. Let's paste those in. Yeah, look at that. So post-service, we're seeing 10.21 horsepower, and our torque came in at 11.38. So that's pretty drastic. This thing was really down on power. Looks like it just needed some love. Let's take a closer look here. Yeah, 10.21, 11.38. Interesting that the peak torque came in at the exact same time as our horsepower at about 4,100 RPM. That's interesting. I tried to be a little smoother with how I opened the valve on this one, but you can see I'm still getting that dip, so I still need to get that fixed. But let's go ahead and open our previous test. And they're not going to overlap perfectly, but yeah, look at that, 7.29. Now we're seeing 10.21, 9.18. Now we're seeing 11.38. So we've definitely increased the power of this engine just by doing some basic service. I'm thinking most of it was probably that intake valve. I've also found some good lash settings that work here at our track. We're at 4,300 feet, so we're way up here. But for those that don't know me personally, that may question my integrity on some of these numbers, I mean, I can manipulate these numbers. I could have this thing read 100 horsepower if I wanted to, but just to show you that there's nothing funny going on here. Here's our post-service dyno pole. So we've got the dyno sensor. There's the formula that I calculate that with. Here's the formulation that I calculate the pressure within the system. Here's our RPM that I use for some other calculations. With the gear ratio I've got on there, this is the gear ratio I'm using. Here's how I'm calculating the flow rate, and it uses the pump RPM with some other calculations. Here's the horsepower. This is how I'm calculating the horsepower. Here's how I calculate the torque, and then here's how I reduce the torque so we can see it in foot-pounds. We'll go over here to our previous test before we did the service. We've got our dyno sensor, same calculations, same gear ratio, same flow rate, same horsepower calculation, torque, and then reduced foot-pounds. So if anyone wants to question that, the math equals the same on both. So yeah, we've definitely added some power into the motor. Should make the customer happy.
Okay guys, so I hope you enjoyed the video. Service is complete. The 206 is definitely my favorite kart racing engine. I still need to clean the customer's clutch up for him. But other than that, this service is complete. So like I mentioned earlier in the video, I'm going to do another one on how to measure the valve and exhaust lift. So stay tuned for that, and if you like this video, definitely let me know, and I'll make some more of these.